Hello, friends. It is very good to see you. I hope you're having a really great Wednesday so far. Thank you for joining us for another Transmissions from the Cave. Of course, this is a weekly show that we do here on the Mad Cave Studios channel where we get to interview incredible creatives behind the stories that you know and love or something you might have to look forward to. Today is a very exciting day. We are doing a live draw. Live draws are some of my favorite streams that we do here. The vibes are immaculate. We just get to hang out and watch someone be amazing and talented and ask them all about it. I think that it's very special that people like to come on and share their art here with us. Absolute magic. It's good to see you. Welcome in Dead Wisp while you're driving. Hey, be careful. No chatting and driving, okay? Be good. Allie, hello. Frank, hello. Rob McPhee, Kurt Lorton, hello. Christoph, what's going on? Pedro, Flannel Fries. Hi, friends. How are you? You having a pretty good Wednesday so far? I hope that it only gets better from here. Today we are doing a live drawing with Connery Volk, the artist of Nottingham, which is so exciting because let me freaking tell you about Nottingham. In this twisted medieval noir, the Sheriff of Nottingham hunts a serial killer with a penchant for tax collectors. The sheriff's investigation makes him the target of England's most nefarious power brokers. That's to say nothing of the Merrymen, terrorists lurking amongst the trees of Sherwood, led by an enigma known only as Hood. It definitely has like these nods that you would be familiar with, right? We're recognizing some themes here, which I love. There's a link right there in chat to order Nottingham if you want to get your hands on the series. Of course, as always, we have a lovely trailer to play for you. If you're not already enticed, the trailer usually puts it over the edge. I know it does for me. And then we'll get to ask questions and talk all about it, of course, with Shane, which I'm so excited about. New from Mad Cave this week, due to some unforeseen printing delays, Nottingham Volume 1 will actually be delayed in its release, but it will be hitting shelves very soon. So a heads up on that. I'm sure there's a little more that you can find out on the website. You can always reach out to us. And let's talk about Shane, shall we? Let's do it. So Connery Volk is the lead singer and songwriter of her Canadian rock band One Bad Son, which is awesome. I've never started off one of our guests' bios like that. It's very cool. Over the last 18 years, Volk's commanding stage presence and soaring vocal range has captivated fans. OBS toured with Def Leppard, Judas Priest, and Shinedown, among many others. Landed a coveted spot on the 2019 Rolling Stones tour. In embracing the full spectrum of his art, Volk has also embarked on his career as a professional comic book artist, winning Mad Cave Studios Talent Search in 2019. His first series is the medieval noir Nottingham, with publisher Mad Cave Studios. That's us. We love to hear it. This 5-issue series has become a hit, with each issue receiving multiple printings. The success of Nottingham has brought Volk one step closer to a lifelong aspiration to draw comics and make music his whole life. More art all the time. Like what? Like what? Isn't that wild? When I read this, when this was sent over to me, I was like, I'm sorry, pardon? Like, we have a lot of very impressive people on this show. We're very fortunate. This is just a whole nother direction. This is just not something that we were expecting. I love that. Nottingham is fantastic. I cannot recommend getting your hands on it enough. It kept me on the edge of my seat. Absolutely. This week we are doing a giveaway. Of course, we are giving away a copy of Nottingham Volume 1. So if you've heard all of this and you're like, hell yeah, let me get my hands on that comic, I got you, fam. We will be doing the giveaway during the interview at some point. We'll let you know how to enter when that comes up, so stick around for that. Of course, we always like to remind you, if you want to lend a little bit of support in a really difficult time in this world, to check out Bink. Bink is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to assisting booksellers in need. The Bink Foundation grew a wish of bookstore employees to establish a fund to help their colleagues experiencing unexpected financial crises. Bink is dedicated to assisting bookstores and comic store employees across the United States in their greatest time of need. And damn, do it be a time of need out here. So you can do !Bink in the chat, and it's already there. Thank you to the mods for popping that on up. You can go and donate and support, or find out a little more information about it at least. You can also do !Nottingham if you want to check out Nottingham. You want to get your order in. You want to check out a little more information about it. It's a great way to do so. I'm so glad that you're here. I am so freaking excited about this, y'all. Like, I love a live draw. I love watching someone do something that I could never in a million years do, quite simply. And come to find out, Shane can do approximately 100 things I could never do. So I am going to be right back. In the meantime, I'm going to play you the trailer for Nottingham so you can check that out, get a little more familiar with the series. And then when we come back, Shane's going to draw something for you. So I'll see you all in just a minute. Hello, everyone. We are back. Hey, Shane, welcome. Welcome to the stream.
It's nice to be here. Thanks, Saige. I appreciate it.
It is so lovely to virtually meet you. I'm sure a lot of the audience has possibly met you before if they've been here for some of the streams before I was here. But I'm so excited to have you drawing. Shane, could you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Well, I'm the artist on Nottingham, which came out this summer and has been a huge hit and success. So very stoked about that, and want to already thank people in the chat for buying the crap out of this book this summer. So yeah, I do comic art and I'm a musician full time as well. So I create all the time.
Yeah, so we did your bio before you came in, and we all had like an absolute moment because they're used to hearing like an artist bio and being like, oh wow, like, oh my goodness, comic books. Yours threw us for a loop. We took a big left turn. We took a huge left turn in learning about you here. And everybody in chat was absolutely shocked.
Oh, well, that's really cool. Yeah, no, I've been doing music for, my band has been together about almost 18 years now. So yeah, I spent most of my time on tour before the pandemic hit. I think I was on tour about 7 months out of the year. So
Wow.
yeah, so now it's like I've gone, the comic art stuff has gone really well. So now I have two full-time careers, and I do some acting on the side as well. So I'm like I always say I have
Oh, that's all?
2.5 careers.
You know, just a couple things, everybody. That's really cool. Has art for you during the pandemic, as someone who would be used to touring, how has it been to have this kind of other medium to create through?
Honestly, like, I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but it's like, it's been a lifesaver, honestly, just to, I mean, a few good things that have happened. My wife and I have not had this much time together in this near 7 years we've known each other. So that's been awesome. But just to have an outlet, because, writing music and being on tour has been my whole life. So to have that, taken away has been, yeah, it's been tough, but this has been, yeah, it's been an absolute lifesaver for sure.
That's really wonderful. And we certainly get to benefit from it because Nottingham absolutely slaps.
Well,
So,
thank you so much. Yeah, I'm stoked about it. I'm doing a little, I'm doing the sheriff here, by the
yeah, I
way.
was going to say, tell us about what you're drawing. So we talked about the sheriff before you came on, but can you describe this character to us a little bit?
Well, the sheriff of Nottingham. I mean, if you are into Robin Hood stuff at all, is pretty well known. But this version is pretty much David, the writer David Hazan, it's his creation. So I don't want to say he's the good guy or the in the world of Nottingham. There's not a lot of good people in general.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's kind of the main protagonist, and he's like he's not a good guy, he's not a bad guy. He's kind of I love him because he's a bit of a nebulous character. Sometimes you root for him, and then sometimes you think, man, this guy does a lot of terrible things to get the job done. But I mean, it's medieval times. So yeah, he's the sheriff of Nottingham, and more than anything, he's a detective. So it's David's take on the story is that it's a bit of a medieval detective noir. So very cool. So it's not just, I mean, I love history. I'm a history nerd. You'll probably learn more about that today, but it's cool because it's a different take on it. So you're not just getting kind of, the same thing you've seen all the time in Robin Hood stories and different medieval movies and things like that. So yeah, it plays out a bit more like a police drama, which is super cool. So anyway, I'm doing some Sheriff of Nottingham here for you today. Just standing, generally looking angry and badass.
It's wild how quickly that is coming together. My goodness, we're like 3 minutes in. I'm like, oh, I see the thing. Oh my God.
I got a bit of reference going up here too.
Nice.
It's an ongoing joke about how much like of my own reference photos I have of me standing and like in these weird poses, and but that's just the name of the game.
That's awesome. How would you describe your art style?
Chaotic.
Ooh, chaotic. That's a first I've heard.
I come from a world of like, I was into comic books kind of in the 90s when I was a kid, and really liked artists like Todd McFarlane and that sort of stuff. But then more recently, like as of probably the last like 5 or 6 years, I really got into like Mike Mignola, and especially artists like Jock, because I found, like, I'm sure a lot of artists find this. You try to, when you're starting anyways, you kind of are like, oh, I want to be like this person. And so you try to ape their style, and then you start to realize like, I can't do Todd McFarlane the way Todd McFarlane does. So so I kind of found my art going in a different direction. And it was just a bit more loose and kind of non-traditional. Like, it's not really, I wouldn't categorize my art as overly pretty. So I just kind of have been embracing being a little more, just like letting the messiness happen and just sort of let the looseness happen.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so I think something I learned from one of my favorite artists, Bill Sienkiewicz, is like trying to get your art to like make you feel a thing instead of like look a certain way. You know what I mean? So instead of getting sort of obsessed with the exactness of lines and that sort of thing, I've kind of gone this way of like, when I'm done a page, I'm like, does it make me feel the thing I wanted to feel? Because then I'm okay with all the mistakes and the mess of the whole thing. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Going for more of what kind of emotion you want to evoke with it and what kind of story you're telling than about precision and what is like considered to be correct.
Well, you summed it up far better than I could.
That's my job. I just listen and summarize.
You listen to artists like babble on, and then you're like, so in 2 words, you're trying to say this. Okay, got it.
That's why being a host is very easy. You do all of the hard part. And I make it look easy. It's my job. So then, if you were enjoying comics in the '90s, do you have any particular ones that inspired you?
I've always been I've always been a huge Batman fan, and honestly, the Sheriff was sort of my my way of drawing like a Batman like character.
Nice.
I like that Batman is like, just his silhouette tells you exactly who he is. Like, you see the ears and like just a shape.
Yeah.
So I always loved Batman comics, but I mean, I was all over the map when I was a kid. I read a lot of Superman stuff, and I think Death of Superman. I'm aging myself here, whatever. It's what it is. It's life. But Death of Superman kind of got me into comics, and then I think I moved past kind of the superhero thing a little bit, you
Okay.
know, and that's where I got into Mike Mignola, like the Hellboy stuff. Honestly, I think when I discovered his art and especially like the Hellboy stuff, just it really floored me. I'm like, okay, this is like a whole different deal. Like it looks. I remember hating his art when I first saw it, and then years later, I was like, that's all I wanted to do was put lots of black on a page and
What an interesting shift.
very, yeah, you know, because I think when you're a kid, like, you know, I grew up just wanting to draw Batman and Superman and Wonder
Mhm.
Woman and all those things, right?
Right.
Um, but then I kind of made the shift. So it was cool when this book came along because this is not a superhero book by any means, you know. I
Right.
mean, um, so yeah, I couldn't point to like one book in particular that I gravitated to, but yeah, I'd say the early Hellboy stuff really kind of, yeah, changed my artistic um, outlook, if that makes sense.
That's great. Absolutely. And did you always know that at some point you wanted to work in comics as well?
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. I always drew like I was that kid in school. Like it's kind of a typical artist thing. Like I was the kid doodling and doing all the stuff. Um, but when the first time I got on stage, I was like, that's all I want to do. I just want to sing all the time. And then fast forward like 20 years later, I always had in the back of my mind, I always thought I wanted to do comics. And then to make a very long story short, that's when at some point, um, we had our biggest show. We opened for the Rolling Stones in 2019. And I don't know, I think I was just inspired by just artists. And I got into this headspace where I'm like, if I'm going to do comic art, like now's the time. It's like enough. 20 years of kind of not doing it was enough. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I kind of I found the Mad Cave talent search, and I thought, well, I don't know really how to get into comics, so this seems like it might be a good way in. Yeah, so I've always wanted to do comics, and yeah, it was Mad Cave's talent search that really, I mean, it changed everything for me. I realize I've had a pretty, compared to how other people have broken into the industry, it's been, I don't want to say easy because none of this stuff is easy, but I haven't hammered away at it for a decade. So I realize how fortunate I am.
Wow. I gotta say, I can absolutely guarantee you will be the only person that ever comes on this show and says, "So I was opening for the Rolling Stones, and then I decided I wanted to do comics." It's never gonna happen again. That phrase has actually never been said before. There's like a whole thing on Reddit. There's a whole subreddit designated to sentences people have never said, trying to say something for the first time as a string of words, and you did it.
Oh, hey, well, great. I mean, I like to be original if I can.
Nailing it. Absolutely nailing it. Well, let's get into Nottingham a little bit more. For those who are not familiar, who have not picked it up yet, like absolute fools, what should they know about Nottingham? Can you tell us a little more about the series?
Yeah, so like I said, it's set in like the Robin Hood mythos, and it's like a medieval. It's kind of like a 30s detective noir, with the really, you know, they're all kind of moody characters, but it's set in medieval times. So the sheriff of Nottingham, in the beginning, is he's investigating the death of tax collectors in Nottingham. Um, and so as he's investigating these murders, you know, kind of you meet the cast of characters you would think would be in a Robin Hood story, like Friar Tuck comes in there, Maid Marian, who's my absolute favorite of the whole series. And I'm drawing the second series now, and where she goes in the second series, where David has the story going, it's awesome. She's my favorite. But yeah, so all those characters are there that you know, but they're all very different. They have, you're not sure, you know, if I could, the books are all out, so can I even do spoilers? It's not really spoilers at this point, you know.
We'll give like a little
uh
bit of a spoiler alert. We'll only spoil enough that they still have to pick it up and read it.
Love it. Okay, that's a good rule. Yeah, so it's like, you know, Robin Hood and the Merry Men are kind of, they're the same characters that you would think they are. Like they're robbing from the rich to give to the poor and all the things from the legend, but you can't really tell, especially where it starts. Are they good? Are they on the side of good? Are they, and they're a little more like it's a bit of a loaded term, but like they're a bit of like they're like an extremist organization, and you don't really know what their motives are, and if they're really out for the good of the people or if they have ulterior motives. So that's kind of my basic rundown. I told you before that I can only do so well at talking and drawing, and so that I'll babble and the drawing won't be quite as clean as it normally would, but I think.
But we're getting both, and it looks pretty freaking incredible from here.
Awesome. Can you see that okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it looks phenomenal. The hair is majestic, everything about it.
Yeah, the hair, that's one thing I've learned about comic art. The hair sells it.
Yeah.
You have to have wind in every scene, and it's like, yeah, especially in medieval times, it always has to be a really crappy day outside. And
That's fantastic. Now, I do recall that you mentioned you have a reference photo. I'm looking at the pose that this character is standing in, and it's a majestic pose. Have you ever shared the photos of you in these poses?
I have actually. Yeah, I kind of have an ongoing thing where I share these. So maybe after the stream is over, I'll put it up on.
Yeah, put it up on Twitter or something so that we can redirect people to go and take a look at it. Because that's excellent. I just had to know. I think we were all there. But back to Nottingham, I think that does give us a little bit of an idea of what readers are in for. As for the kind of audience of Nottingham, who do you think this is for?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it kind of covers a lot of different ground, which is I think why it's been popular. Like it's not like it's not a kid's book, but I think if you like the kind of detective side of it, you'll probably love it. If you love, Conan and that sort of stuff too, with like sort of it's medieval times, and David really has it. I don't want to say it's all like realistic, but it's a pretty realistic-ish take, but you still have enough kind of fantasy elements too that I think if you like those kind of books, yeah. So if you like police stories, and if you like Conan kind of historical stuff, you'll probably dig it. And if you like blood and guts and just general mayhem, then you'd probably be into it too.
If you like violence, probably don't say it in the chat. You'll probably get put on a list. But do pick up the book, of course.
For the lovers of the violence and gore, I'll add some dripping blood to the sword. How's that sound?
There we go.
It's the right thing.
Absolutely. Freshly used. I love it.
I've never heard that before. I like that.
Yeah, of course.
It's freshly used.
Look, I've got a sword laying around here or two, and not one of them is dripping blood.
No.
So that's what separates.
Not that you're willing to admit.
Right. That's the only thing that separates me and Sheriff Nottingham. Otherwise, we're identical in every way. What would you say has been the most rewarding part of the process on this so far?
Probably like a couple things. I think. I mean, the fan response has honestly been like incredible. Like it's so, for my first book out, and I know it was David's first book as well, writing, and I think we both loved the story. Like honestly, when he sent me the scripts and stuff, I thought, oh, this is cool and different and should be pretty fun to draw. Sorry, I have to flip this around a couple times.
Do the thing.
Yeah, like we knew that it was going to be a cool story for the people that maybe bought it. They might enjoy it, but I wasn't expecting it to like kind of get the hype it was. So, or that it got. So yeah, like I loved just seeing how much people were loving it as it came out. And, I'm a human being, so I was not worried, but you're hesitant to wonder how people are going to receive your art.
Yeah.
Especially my stuff, because like I said, it's not clean, and I think it was a bit different than what maybe people were expecting out of a story like this.
Mhm.
And then other than that, honestly, like just the team, like David was awesome. Luca, our colorist, Jomet, our letterer, and then editors, everybody at Mad Cave, like Chris Fernandez and Brian Hawkins, just awesome. Like it, I mean, I don't really know the right word to sum it up, but I think for our first gig, having this team, they were so supportive. Like they saw the art coming in and they were just like, yeah, it's great. Keep going, you know? And it seemed like the more crazy it got, the more they were into it, which was awesome. Like,
Nice.
yeah, I didn't really get edited a ton, like as far as, you know, this should look this way or this should look, do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
yeah, so just the whole process was awesome. But
that's fantastic. That's really cool. And for those who aren't familiar with kind of like how the talent search goes here, what was the process like between winning the talent search and getting connected to Nottingham?
um, yeah, so I kind of when I found out that I won, they just said, you know, congratulations and we'll be in touch. And I was really up for doing whatever. I had no idea kind of how it was going to work. But then they said, how do you feel about, what did they say? How do you feel about noirs? And I said, perfect. It's great. I'll do it. How do you feel about medieval stuff? And I said, even better.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was all pretty, like, it was kind of really chill, pretty random. Like, you know, I don't know how or why David and I got teamed up, but maybe they just kind of felt my art style fit the story.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was honestly like, it was very chill. They were just like, how do you feel about working on this? And I said, you give me a job drawing comic books, like I will literally draw anything you want. Like,
That's great. And then being a history buff that lined up. That's what an
yeah.
excellent coincidence.
Well, and I'll
Mm.
tell you, it's been a process of really letting go of some of the history stuff. Cause I think when I started, I was, you know, I wanted costumes and stuff to be as accurate as I could get. But then you realize it's also comic books, and
Yeah.
you need to sort of let go of some of that at some point too. So um, I'm using my favorite. This is my favorite tool right now. The
Ooh.
you can see the parallel pen. It's like a calligraphy pen that a lot of artists are using now,
Oh my
but
goodness.
it makes like super cool lines, like for fabric and stuff. Like it does a lot of work for you.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, that's just like nerdy
That's
artist stuff.
that's very cool. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. Hey, we're literally here for nerdy artist stuff. That's the whole point of the stream.
I know I feel so at home with like all comic book people, and honestly, comic book people and music people are pretty much the same. So,
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. What do you hope that people will take away from Nottingham?
um, I mean, it's a great adventure. Like it's a fun book. Like it's not, you know, I think for as David's got a lot of really cool themes just about, you know, that really play into our current world about like the way politics works and who's on what side, and like, you know, are people in it for good or are they just in it for themselves? Like there's a lot of cool underlying stuff in it, but it's also like it's just it's a fun story to read as well, and a good mystery. So mostly I think like any art of any kind, whether it's music um, or comic books, I really hope people just like, I hope they felt like it was worth their like $3 an issue, you know?
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. How do you feel like the response differs from music fans to comic book fans?
You know what? That's a really good question. It's honestly so similar. Like it's awesome. Like as of I think the first book, there were already these people that were like messaging me and like, I love this character and I get what's next, and they're trying to like get, you know, what's happening in the next books. Like they were
Mhm.
hardcore as of the first issue, which was awesome.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, and music is the same way, where you have people who, um, anytime you put yourself out there, whether it's comic art, music, there's going to be haters. I mean, that's just goes with the territory. But
Mhm.
you also get these people that are instantly and sometimes you wonder why they're so hardcore, but they're hardcore right off the start. They're like all into it. So I've had so many messages from people who have like bought all the books in multiple printings, and immediately started ordering like commissions and all that sort of stuff. So super cool, like super cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So,
For those who don't know, Nottingham is coming back with a second volume, which is very exciting.
yes.
Are you stoked?
Honestly, I'm like, I had fun drawing the first series. Like it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Big time learning curve though, right? Like it's so different and new, but I feel like we've all kind of started to find our feet and feel more confident, and the story is awesome. Like I can't wait till people get into the story. It's so cool.
Ooh,
And
that's
I have
exciting.
like people can zoom in on this, like here, there's just a little corner. This is a corner of a page right here.
Secrets? Is it secrets? Oh, that's awesome. Is there anything you can tell us about the second volume that you won't get in trouble for people to look forward to?
You know what, Sage? I like that you ask a lot of loaded questions.
Because it's like super not like I'm not gonna get in trouble for it.
Well, that's what I appreciate about your questioning. It's like, well, hey, I just asked. I didn't tell him he had to answer. I mean, whatever.
Of course
Uh,
not.
yeah, honestly, like I'm glad you asked this question, because as I read the scripts, I was thinking there's so many sequels that and I'm sure other people have this feeling, that are just bad. They're bad sequels, and they kind of do the same old thing where it's like, oh, it's the same, but more. And it's like, oh, did you like the explosions in the first one? There's like 1,000 more explosions this time. Like David's gone in this cool way of like, kind of, it's still in the same genre, but it's, I'm trying to think of the perfect answer here. I think, okay, this is a deep cut from sci-fi for some people maybe, but it's sort of like how the first Alien movie was like a straight up horror, and
Uh-huh.
then Aliens is like goes right into sort of like an action movie. Now it's not exactly like that, but it kind of has that vibe where you're like, okay, it's the same world and there's still like the same elements, but it's, instead of taking it into some like just the same thing done over and over, David's taken it and just added a bit of a different genre to it in some ways, not
That's cool.
completely, but super cool. So yeah, I won't say exactly
Right.
what genres, but yeah,
That's
it's
so cool. I love a sequel that can evoke new emotions.
that's, again, that's the perfect way to put it, because
I'm very excited.
yeah, I think people are going to really dig it.
That's awesome. That's very, very cool. You started here in this kind of like medieval noir genre. Is there another like genre of comics that you'd really like to work in?
um it's another really good question. I mean, let me just level with you. At some point in my life, if I got to draw Batman, I'd be really stoked about it.
Nice. Okay.
Because I think, like, all my kind of artistic, like, or like artist heroes have, you know gone into superheroes to some degree. Like
Mhm.
I love Joelle Jones. She's awesome, and like her Catwoman stuff is incredible. But her like, I think Lady Killers is her book, very different. Like, and I want to bring, now that I've done this sort of thing, like I would love to bring something a bit different, or like at least my take on superheroes. So that would be sweet.
Nice.
But I think more than anything, honestly, I'm kind of up for like whatever comes next,
Cool.
because I probably wouldn't have picked this to do. Like if you gave me the choice of, sorry, I gotta make a bit of noise here.
This is cool.
Well, it took me a long time to get the right effect for his like cloak, but
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cool.
I would take, yeah, I would definitely take. I'd love to try something that maybe I never thought I would want to draw, And I think if the story's good, um, anything could be exciting to do. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, so I have my next very loaded question. What is
Are you
something
going to ask, does the sheriff die in the next book?
I'm gonna ask, does ACAB apply to the sheriff? No, I'm sorry. Instead, I'm gonna ask, what is something that our audience probably doesn't know about you?
Doesn't know about me.
Which is like most things, and that's why it's a broad, loaded question.
Yeah, without incriminating myself.
Also, they do want to know if the sheriff dies, but that's chat. That's not me.
Well, I mean, maybe this is just like shameless self promotion, and it's not like fully announced yet. But I have my first solo music is coming out pretty soon. So so the band is still going, and we're going to be working on some new stuff here right away. But I have my very first like song that I wrote and recorded and all that will be coming out pretty quick. So
that's amazing.
That's new. That's new.
When did you find the time?
Well, you know, it's like the way it honestly happened. I've had music sitting on a shelf for a long time, and I recorded it actually right after the Rolling Stones show. I was in Toronto and recorded it with our producer out there, and was gonna release it. But then, of course, when the pandemic hit, I'm like, oh well, we can't do anything anymore. So the song's just been sitting around for almost 2 years. So
wow.
Yeah. So I was lucky. Like it's been sitting around for a while, but I finally have the time to like put it out. And while I'm drawing this book, and I don't know, you find the time. There's 24 hours in a day, and you don't have to sleep for that many of them.
We made at least a few, right? We're just all gonna keep our fingers crossed that you're sleeping for at least a few of them.
Yes.
Do you listen to music while you draw typically?
You know, I really don't. Like,
really?
I find it. My problem with listening to music while I'm drawing is that I immediately get like caught up in it, and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea for a new song, and I'll completely lose concentration on what I'm doing, and I'll go pick my guitar up and write for like 2 hours, and then fall way behind on deadlines. So, I probably watch. Here's another thing you probably don't know about me. I watch a lot of documentaries while I draw, like tons of history documentaries, and I watch a lot of baseball too. I'm a huge baseball fan.
Okay. That's cool. All right. I love a documentary.
Okay.
Love a documentary. I don't know a damn thing about history.
Well, that's fine. Do you have like a certain type of documentary you watch? Is it like crime stuff? Is it?
I love crime stuff, and I also know that I immediately give off a vibe of a woman who watches true crime. I understand that is something I emit into this world. I love any kind of crime. I love a conspiracy documentary, even though I do not believe in them. I also
right, even if you think a bunch of BS, you're like, okay. Like a lot of people will like devote their entire life to those conspiracies. So.
It's a psychology thing. I'm a big psychology nut, so psychology docs are fun. But my favorite is extreme niche interest. Things like the Rock-afire Explosion documentary about animatronic bands from Showbiz Pizza. It's nonsense. It's incredible. So if I can recommend a documentary, it is it's that. It's the Rock-afire Explosion documentary.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to have a lot of drawing time ahead of me, so you can send me that after the chat, and then I can check it out.
You got it. All right. I will certainly do that. Also, Alice in the chat said Shane's ability to do all the things inspiring.
Oh, well, that's so nice. You know what? One thing I'm always careful of is like that feeling of
Okay, I believe we should be back up, everybody. Apologies for the drop there. Please do let me know if it's all coming through okay for you, and we'll we'll pick up where we left off. Now, I have to say, yeah, everyone can see us. We're great. We're back. You were saying I don't learn things to be impressive, but like you have to know when you say something like that everyone goes, that's even more impressive. You know, every one of us is here like, wow, he doesn't even like it just comes naturally.
You know, I'm a huge believer in like it's a short life. Like we're not here very long, you know, so you better just do what you want to do. Like at least try to do the things you want to do. And that's all.
Okay. So in theory, everything is fine. And we are back. And if it goes down again, then Destiny just wants to see a beautiful photo of this after the stream, and that's it. But everyone was waiting for the kind of culmination of your words of wisdom as to just kind of living once and doing it.
Yeah, like I, I yeah, I'm just a firm believer in that. Like life is more than your political leanings or your, you know, there's just so much of that now. Like everyone's so worried about everyone else's thing that we don't like and what they don't like. It's what a waste of time. I've always thought like you if you have something you want to do, go do it. Stop being so worried about what other people are doing. That's like kind of been my thing, right? Um, and ever since I was a kid, I just wanted to do this. I wanted to do art. When I discovered that I could sing, I thought that sounds awesome. Let's keep going on that. I mean, that's kind of what life is, you know, is just going after the things you love and doing it. It's not about like, I get, it's annoying when people talk about like, you know, success stories or failures because there really isn't any. You can't really lose if you're trying to do your thing. I mean, losses are just learning experiences, you know. I mean, I would say that for anybody that's um tried to do the like the anybody that hasn't won like something like Mad Cave's contest, for instance. Will you do it again next year? You know,
Yeah.
there's no failures. Like the only failure is if you get defeated and don't try anymore, you know. So that's my words of wisdom. What do you think?
I think you nailed it.
Awesome.
I think that was excellent. I think that was worth the stream coming down and back up for. It's the moment in Rocky Horror when Frankenfurter says anticipation. It's what keeps
I
us
love it.
waiting.
I love it.
Uh, is there any on that kind of advice? Is there any piece of advice that you've been given that has stuck with you throughout your career or helped you as an artist?
Um, you know, the simplest stuff. Like I won't say that I've been given any like crazy advice. I think a lot of people are looking for I think a lot of people are looking for like the magic formula behind something. Like they'll see their favorite artist or writer or actor or musician and think like, oh, what's the secret sauce, you know?
Mm.
And I have the most boring answer for you, but it is like it's absolutely true. And you'll find it with everybody who's become like really successful at their thing. And that's just putting the time in. Like if you want to do art, you got to draw. Like you can't sit at your drawing table for 10 minutes a day and then wonder why you're not Jim Lee the
Mm.
next day. You know what I mean? Music's the same way. I mean, um, our first agent said the best advice before we got signed to them. He's like, he saw us play and he's like, hey, you know, you guys are pretty rough, but it's nothing 500 shows won't fix.
Wow.
And I thought, but that is the takeaway, right? Like if you want to do it, you got to do it. You can't think that there's some magical way that people do these careers. You know, they just work. I was at my first Comic Con in, well, 2 years now in Calgary, and just watching these artists sit there, they're big, like big name artists sitting there when their booth dies down, and they're just drawing. Like they're not drawing ever, you know, because they love it, and that's what keeps them at the top of their game. So I feel like,
Wonderful.
yeah, it is kind of like boilerplate advice, but it's just so true. Like if you want to do something, you've got to do it. You have to draw all the time.
That's wonderful advice. We're going to move over to some questions from the live chat. We have a few coming in, and if y'all have anything that you want to ask, you want me to
I'm
ask James,
excited.
drop it in the chat. Flannel Fries wants to know, is there a similar creative flow when you approach music versus drawing? Is it the same feeling for you?
That is an awesome question. I'm stoked about that. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's this period of frustration with anything new where you question your ability and yourself and your talent and you want to tear up a piece of paper or throw your guitar in the garbage because everything you just did is so bad. Then you come up with something and you're like, oh my God, this is great. I love this. This is like, I'm on it. And I do that with songwriting. Same as something like this. I tend to get lost in the weeds with where it's supposed to go or what I kind of forgot what this picture was supposed to be, but I think I've kind of found it again.
It looks
So
phenomenal.
thanks. Yeah, so it's very similar, like to, especially to writing, because I always just love, as simple as it sounds, the process of taking something from nothing to something. Like this was just blank paper. Now it's this picture, you know, and picking up your guitar or whatever your thing is, and just all of a sudden you've got a song, good or bad. You're like, it was nothing before this.
Yeah.
So yeah, very similar. That's a great question.
That's so cool. Art Wamby wants to know if you have any words of wisdom for somebody looking to get hired as an artist.
Um, you know, again, I'll fully admit, like the way I got into this industry was extremely fortunate to just have entered that contest and sort of gotten a breakthrough it. But I will say, just like music or anything else, you just have to, any way you can get your art out, you know. So if you're drawing, I would say, like, you know, you can do so much creator own stuff now that, you know, if no one's looking at your stuff, write and draw your own story, you know, and you can get that out, something to at least show people. I would say as an artist, your best thing that you can do is learn sequential art. You know, it's one thing to do, like, these are fun, like these are great, but if you can't draw a story, you're not going to get hired. So I think, like, before you get weighed down by your style and, like, do you know what I mean, or even genre stuff, you've got to be like, if you give me a story, I'll draw it and it'll look awesome. That's like, you need to get there, because then people will start looking at your work. And the part B to that is you got to be, as much as you can, to land a job actually doing, you know, full on books, is like, you got to be aware of deadlines. So getting your speed up is, I hate to say it, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of important.
Yeah, that makes
Being
sense.
fast and trying to do some quality. So I think, yeah, just, and again, boring advice, but just, you got to keep after it. So send stuff to everybody. And like, if you find contests, get into it, whatever, wherever you can get your art out.
Yeah, we've talked before about how social media here on this show, we've talked before about how social media can amplify art in a way that people have never had access before. There are all of those draw on your style challenges and things that can just even just get some more eyes on your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing too that I could probably say to also is like take people's criticism. I think I had a really good piece of advice when I first started singing because I can hit like a lot of high notes and stuff like that, like lots of really athletic sort of singing. And he's like, hey, you can hit a lot of high notes, but you can't sing. He used some flowery terminology. He's like, but you can't sing for, your life, basically. And it was great because up until that point, I had a lot of people just blowing smoke. Oh man, great. But you don't learn from that. And I remember him telling me that and thinking like, finally I got good advice. Like, he's like, you need to learn how to sing now. Great. You can scream, but that's not anything. So I think for a lot of people is like, don't get turned off if, you take your art in and somebody has negative things to say about it. Like, you've got to take that. You can't be turned off by it, and not everybody's right, but you got to learn to take criticism in this industry for sure. So
that's great. Kaylin Roar is asking about, okay, so this is a little bit of a long one. So Ridley Scott's Robin Hood apparently started as a screenplay called Nottingham, where the sheriff was supposed to be a protagonist. Do you know if there is any correlation of like inspiration from Ridley Scott's Robin Hood?
You know what? That would be a question for David, but
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think. Yeah, I'm not exactly. That'd be a great question for David. I dropped this.
We can redirect that
where all
question.
the errant ink goes, but yeah, I think David. Like, I wouldn't know, but maybe that's definitely that's one for him for sure.
Very interesting. Extremes wants to know, how do you know when you've reached the final design of a character?
Do you mean final design or like when the drawing is done?
I have in quotation marks final design of when you have to take your hands kind of off of it, I think.
You never really do. Like, this picture is pretty much done, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a tendency to noodle too much, and kind of take it to a place where it no longer looks any good. But I think it's writing music's the same way, where you kind of, one of our producers said a really great thing where he was like, it's done when it can be different, not better. Wow. Like I could add some little thing here that doesn't improve the drawing. It's just another little thing, So yeah, you kind of have to. Also, the blessing of working under deadlines is the drawing is over when it's like the 20th hour and I have to go to sleep and move on to the next page.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I love that, when the drawing can be different but not better. I think that applies to any artistic medium. I think that's so wonderful.
Because you can always change it. I mean, that's why obviously people like George Lucas keep going back like 40 years later. He's still changing Star Wars. You're like, right. But in his mind, it's just not there yet for him, so you can never really be done. But great question.
And then Kaylin Roar also asked and said, here's the most loaded question of all time. Which band has the best album art?
Oh, best album art. Man, that's a really good question. That's a great question. I mean, obviously, like McFarlane did like some Korn albums and stuff like that, and I loved. When I was a kid, I was like, "That's so cool."
Same.
Seeing comic art and like music like that, and especially like I'm a rock and roll guy, so I would say some of those covers were so cool. Absolutely.
I distinctly remember thinking the album artwork for Korn was so cool when I was a kid, because I grew up in South Orange County too, and some of the band members of Korn at various times lived where we grew up, so it was like a very local cool thing to love Korn.
Oh, that's sweet. That's awesome. I love it.
That was an excellent question. Thank you, Kaylin Moore. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. We are going to roll that giveaway. We're giving away a copy of Nottingham, which is so cool. So somebody here who hasn't gotten their hands on it yet gets an opportunity to, but we need a word for them to enter with. Would you like to pick out what it is that they have to type in chat? to enter.
Well, let's go with the sheriff's last name. How about Blackthorn?
Blackthorn. All right. All right. And that's Blackthorn. Is there an E on that?
That's
Cut.
really funny. I need like a copy of Nottingham. Let's put an E on the end of it for
Okay.
this one. But if they spell it wrong, just you can say Shane sent you.
All right. You got it. Okay, everybody, we are going to do the giveaway. Your entry word is Blackthorn, and that is with an E. It is only within the US for shipping's sake. Apologies to our international friends. But Blackthorn in the chat to enter for a copy of Nottingham. This looks phenomenal.
What do you think? I mean, it's pretty much there. I you know, there's a lot of things I could still do, but
it would make it different, not better.
Yeah, I could make it different, not better. Absolutely. So there you go.
Fantastic. This looks awesome. And if people want to see more of your work, where else can they find you?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I haven't done TikTok yet because it felt like one too many. I'm like, I need to sleep at least an hour at night. Yeah, so you can find me on any of the socials, and my website, ShaneConneryVolk.com. You can find everything there as well. And then the band is OneBadSon.com if you want to check out some rock and roll music.
Very exciting. And if they want to keep an eye out for your solo single coming out soon, should they be on your Twitter, on your Instagram, your website?
Any of that stuff. Yeah, any of that stuff, and you will hear about it. I'm going to start like actually kind of announcing everything here in the next month or so. So
that is so exciting. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us. That is so special to get to watch you create like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Saige. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. I'm going to play this trailer again so y'all can get hyped up for Nottingham. And go and drop a follow for Shane and show a little bit of love and support. And I'll be back with y'all in just a minute.
Awesome. Thanks, crew.
Y'all, how freaking cool was that? Wasn't that awesome? I had such an excellent time talking with Shane. Thank you for your wonderful questions. Thank you for being here and being a part of the fun. Congratulations to Dead Wispo1 for winning a copy of Nottingham. Of course, get in touch with one of our mods and we will get that shipped on out to you. Huge congrats to you. If you have not had a chance to read Nottingham yet, we've been dropping the link in chat. Go and check it out. It really is a wonderful time. And now you've gotten to know a little bit more about the people behind it. So that's really special. Of course, if you're not already following Shane, I think there's an exclamation point. What's my command for my guest? Exclamation point Shane. Isn't that easy? There we go. So you can go and follow Shane. I got to see the pose picture while you were watching the trailer, not gonna lie. Everything I had hoped for and more. Everything and more. So, as always, thank you for joining us for another Transmissions from the Cave. I appreciate it so much. A huge thank you to the team. Of course, in previews this week at Mad Cave, we have available for pre-order Bountiful Garden number 3. We've talked about Bountiful Garden here. We have Beckstar Volume 1. We've also talked about Beckstar here. And then we have Battle Cats Volume 3, number 5, issue 5, which is very exciting. So be sure to keep an eye out for all of that. Thank you to Allison, Chris, Manny, Frank, Gio, and the rest of the Mad Cave crew for making this possible. It's very cool of you. Thank you to all of you for being here and hanging out with me today. I, of course, am Saige Ryan. I go by Not Sage everywhere on the internet. You can find me around at pretty much any given time. I'm live somewhere. Be sure to follow Mad Cave as well. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Our next show will be next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. We'll be having a release day party for Needle and Thread with Anoon and David, and it's going to be so much fun. We've had Anoon on before, so it's going to be a very, very special time. So I hope you will come back and join us. If you're not already following the channel, you can follow the channel. You can get notified next time we go live. And we'll see you next time, friends. Bye, y'all.